We have, these are the candidates for Senate seat, District 36. I said in the opening, that's Queen Anne's County, Caroline County, Kent County, and Cecil County, portions thereof. And with that, we have 6 questions. Some of them are repeats, and some of them are new. With this, each candidate will have 60 seconds to introduce him or herself. We'll start with Mr. Bowers.
Good evening. Is the mic, can you hear me from up here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize, I have to admit it's good to be here. I'm a little less than about 2 weeks out of spinal surgery, so I'm unable to use a conventional chair this evening. But thank you to Chamber for putting this on. My name is Rick Bowers, and I'm running for State Senate District 36. I'm a pastor. I'm a husband. My wife Cheryl, we've been married 42 years. I'm a father. My youngest daughter is here, Brittany. I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren. And I'm a businessman, and I love our country. And I think we'd all agree we are at an unusual time in this evening. I just want to kind of encourage you to set the context here, because what's going on in D.C.? We have lawlessness, open borders, we have high gas prices. But tonight you have an opportunity to see the contrast between 3 people running for a state Senate seat. The people in D.C. that are causing this havoc, they started out on a panel just like this. Tonight, I want to challenge you to make sure that you can determine who you believe is going to be less like those in Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you all for taking time out of your evening to come here and listen to us this evening. My name is Steve Hershey. I'm currently your state senator in District 36. I've been in the state senate for 9 years. I serve on the finance committee. So many of you, and we've talked to members from the chamber several times, I deal with a lot of the business regulation issues, healthcare policy, energy policy, insurances, things like that that become very meaningful to small businesses and employers that are working in Maryland. I have a very conservative voting record in the General Assembly, yet I've also been able to have a lot of accomplishments. We have recently passed a piece of legislation that cut unemployment insurance taxes for businesses to the tune of $1.1 billion. It was one of the largest tax cuts that we've ever had in the state of Maryland with respect that focus straight on businesses. So, thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Heather Sinclair. You will see it appear on the ballot as Heather Lynette Sinclair. And I did that because if you Google me, you'll find how many times I've been in the media. And that's because I have been a citizen lobbyist for a decade. And basically what that means is a citizen just like you, who cares an awful lot about participating in government and creating a change for people. So I've been a small business owner as well as a paralegal, but my favorite title is mom to my 2 wonderful boys who are 18 and 13. And I've passed bills across the country actually working with Republicans. Senator Hershey has voted for all of my bills. So I'm asking today for your vote, for you to vote for me, because I've been fighting for you for a long time, and the status quo isn't good enough. Thank you.
Mr. Bowers, Maryland's Eastern Shore is an attractive location for many planning for retirement. However, Maryland continues to receive unfavorable ratings compared to places like Delaware or Florida, which do not charge state income tax on retirement income. While some effort was made during the last Maryland session, it fell short of the desired outcome. Do you favor the elimination of state income tax on Maryland retirees and perhaps other identified categories of workers as an attempt to attract and keep retirees here and to increase the numbers seeking hard to fill jobs such as first responders, teachers, and healthcare workers?
Well, first of all, I'm very, very close to becoming a senior citizen. I'm very proud of that. And I am proud to live here in Maryland. I plan to reside in Maryland. So I would like to see, from a personal perspective, any advantage that we could have as seniors. But let me respond to the first responders and the real heroes in our community. I think that we do need to look for ways that we can reward them for their service. What they do is more than a job. What they do is a ministry to the community. The first responders are our protectors. Our law enforcement is the gravity that keeps our civilized lifestyle here and not floating away off into forgetfulness, okay? We need law enforcement. Now, what I would do, I'd like to take some money out of the Planned Parenthood. I will not vote to take your money to fund Planned Parenthood. I'd like to see, let's defund Planned Parenthood. Let's defund some of the waste that we have, and then I think we can reallocate and we can create a lot of tax breaks for a lot of people that deserve it.
Mr. Bowers, Maryland's Eastern Shore is an attractive location for many planning for retirement. However, Maryland continues to receive unfavorable ratings compared to places like Delaware or Florida, which do not charge state income tax on retirement income. While some effort was made during the last Maryland session, it fell short of the desired outcome. Do you favor the elimination of state income tax on Maryland retirees and perhaps other identified categories of workers as an attempt to attract and keep retirees here and to increase the numbers seeking hard to fill jobs such as first responders, teachers, and healthcare workers?
Well, first of all, I'm very, very close to becoming a senior citizen. I'm very proud of that. And I am proud to live here in Maryland. I plan to reside in Maryland. So I would like to see, from a personal perspective, any advantage that we could have as seniors. But let me respond to the first responders and the real heroes in our community. I think that we do need to look for ways that we can reward them for their service. What they do is more than a job. What they do is a ministry to the community. The first responders are our protectors. Our law enforcement is the gravity that keeps our civilized lifestyle here and not floating away off into forgetfulness, okay? We need law enforcement. Now, what I would do, I'd like to take some money out of the Planned Parenthood. I will not vote to take your money to fund Planned Parenthood. I'd like to see, let's defund Planned Parenthood. Let's defund some of the waste that we have, and then I think we can reallocate and we can create a lot of tax breaks for a lot of people that deserve it.
Maryland's Eastern Shore is an attractive location for many planning for retirement. However, Maryland continues to receive unfavorable ratings compared to places like Delaware or Florida, which do not charge state income tax on retirement income. While some effort was made during the last Maryland session, it fell short of the desired outcome. Do you favor the elimination of state income tax on Maryland retirees and perhaps other identified categories of workers as an attempt to attract and keep retirees here and to increase the numbers seeking hard-to-fill jobs such as first responders, teachers, and healthcare workers?
Yes, I'm in favor of tax relief, and I plan on bringing as much as possible. And I could give you specifics, but the reality is if I'm elected over the span of 4 years, any opportunity I get, I'm going to bring you tax relief. And about the healthcare workers question, there was a large, intensive study done that said that Maryland has too many regulated professions, and that would include healthcare workers. And we have a serious shortage right now. We have a shortage in many of our licensed professions. So we need to, I plan to deregulate some of them because some of them are just ridiculous. We have too many licensing requirements, and then on the other, there was a bill that passed in 2019 that mandated the licensing of those with hardcore criminal records in our prisons and also in healthcare. So I'm gonna deregulate some of the ridiculousness so people can have an easier time getting a job, and we're gonna fill up our healthcare worker shortage. Thank you.
Well, my apologies for wanting to address that earlier. I didn't know we were going to all get the same questions. First of all, you say we fell short of a desired outcome. I would say we finally made progress. This year, the governor had a bill in the Retirement Tax Elimination Act. I had in the Retirement Tax Reduction Act. Finally, this year, we passed a combination of both pieces of legislation that will now allow seniors over 65 years old to get a $1,000 tax credit for singles or $1,750 tax credit jointly. This is far more progress than we've ever made with respect to taxation or tax relief. I wanted to put in, my legislation had put a subtraction modification, which would have provided more relief, as you said. There's one other thing I was able to pass this year. Every county will now be able to reduce the property tax for seniors.
Cecil County is located adjacent to Delaware, where no sales tax is charged. That fact results in many county residents making significant purchases in Delaware, negatively impacting economic activity in Cecil County and the bottom line of local business owners. What would you propose to be done to address this competitive disadvantage and assist our local business owners?
Thank you for the question. This is something that we've been bringing up and discussing in Annapolis very often. Obviously, the no sales tax in Delaware is an attraction for people to not only open businesses, but shop there. We've talked about a geographic sales tax. We've talked about lowering the sales tax. We've talked about a number of things that would put less of a burden on citizens in this area, the Eastern Shore especially, with regards to their purchases. Unfortunately, they fall on deaf ears. But one of the issues that, again, we brought up with the regional sales tax was to be able to possibly eliminate that or reduce it on certain items that were purchased. We've seen recently a number of exemptions that were going on with certain purchases, certain types of products that are out there. But again, nothing that we've been able to accomplish. Do I get to talk about the senior tax increase, or tax reduction at some time? Because I'd like to answer that as well too. Although we fell short, we did get the vote.
That's a very difficult.
It's a very difficult challenge because your taxes are based statewide. They should be same from top to bottom, side to side. But Senator mentioned earlier that they look at it or geographic, some type of geographic scale. I really don't know what the answers are in completion, and I have to be frank with you. I'm not going to tell you that I've sat and completed an exhaustive study on this, but I do know that there is a solution. And again, there's enough money in the budget right now being wasted that can be used to help maybe offset some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I actually considered doing fiscal localism for the Eastern Shore to help our small businesses in particular, and that means creating your own currency called shore bucks. And basically, it would give incentives and rewards to small business owners on the Eastern Shore to participate in this program and consumers to interact with the program so that the money stays local, it stays here on the shore, it stays in Cecil County, Kent County, Queen Anne's County. And if there's anything else that comes up as far as trying to give us an advantage, because I feel like this district gets left behind a lot in Annapolis. Other districts, they seem to get everything. So if there's anything else that comes up, then I will definitely look into it. But I'd like to try the fiscal localism of creating our own currency and keeping our money here and investing in our small businesses. Thank you.
For the past several years, the General Assembly has been addressing the fiscal requirements of the Blue Ribbon Commission Kerwin report that require significant increases in funding for public education in Maryland. The purpose of the initiative is to ensure that Maryland's public school students receive 21st century high-quality learning experiences that will prepare them for success in their futures. Do you agree with implementing its recommendations? Do you have concerns, and if so, specifically, what would you propose to address those concerns?
Thank you for the question. I do support some of the recommendations. However, I support going back in and looking at the issue further. The Democrats in Annapolis tend to support public education as it has always been, and I'm supportive of looking into expanding the public schools so that it has maybe an online feature as a choice for some students, and looking at some of the troubled schools that we have in Maryland and addressing some of those issues, because I don't think throwing money at a problem has ever solved anything in Annapolis. And we do have some problems with some of our local schools. So I do support some of the recommendations, but I think we need to go back in and we need to look at it a little bit more in depth. And I'm a parent with 2 kids in school, and I want to be able to have a say in some of those recommendations. Thank you.
The Kerwin Commission report came out, was turned into legislation, and the concept of it is correct, as you stated. There's nothing more than anybody wants than to make sure our children get a high-class education, regardless of where they live. However, Kerwin is based on funding, and the premise of Kerwin, which is more money per student equals better results, is flawed. That's my concern with Kerwin. That's why I voted against Kerwin. The other thing with Kerwin is it's a one-size-fits-all piece of legislation, and it takes a wealth formula for every county and makes them pay more as a result of that as well too. So we are seeing money come from the state, but counties have to step up and pay more as well too. Two of the counties that I represent here on the Eastern Shore will not be able to afford Kerwin. Simply won't be able to afford it unless they raise taxes to do so, which they've said we're not going to do that.
Kerwin is flawed. I don't like it. I'll vote against it. I think that what we need to do is begin to concentrate on the real problem, which is what is real education now? Well, real education is teaching our children how to read, write, and exist outside of our homes, okay? How to be good citizens, but in school, you know, they need the basic education, no CRT, nothing along those lines. My personal thought is we need to begin to offer a wider variety of school choices, whether it's charter school, homeschool, online school, whatever. But we can give our children more learning opportunities, which puts us less dependent on anything Kerwin or anything the General Assembly comes down the line with, because your tax dollars should follow your students. You should be able to take your tax dollars to your private school, your charter school, and these schools should have secured entrances, and they should have armed people within them, whether they're on staff or whether they have a uniform on, but our children need to be protected.
Senator Hershey, there have been over 200 mass shootings reported in the United States so far in 2022. Recently, the killing of 19 children in Robb Elementary School in Texas has created even more fear and anxiety. What actions do you believe the General Assembly should take to ensure public safety in Maryland?
Well, let's be clear. The General Assembly has the votes to put whatever type of gun control they want in Annapolis. Fortunately, we've been able to hold them off of some of the draconian policies that they wanted to put in place with regards to taking away guns from responsible gun owners. I've always supported the Second Amendment. I'm endorsed by the NRA. I'm proud of that endorsement. I don't like the fact that there are certainly incidences that are going on across the country, but I don't believe that you can focus that strictly on the firearm or the gun. There is a movement to talk about mental health and try to blame it on that. There are many conditions that are leading people to take these types of actions. Certainly mental health is one of them. There are bad people on the planet. There are just some bad people that are out there as well too. But I do think that whatever we do and whatever I've done in Annapolis is to protect responsible gun owners.
You know, we all need to feel safe walking down our streets. That's part of the freedoms that we enjoy as Americans. But we've lost that, and I think we need to get back to some basics. If you're a criminal, you need to go to jail. If you've committed a crime worthy of jail, that's where you need to be. We need to not only have law enforcement doing their job, which I believe most law enforcement is doing their job at this point, but we need to get the prosecutors and the judicial side of this. Prosecutors need to not just plead things down, but people need to begin to pay prices. We need to have facilities for mentally challenged people who don't necessarily need jail. They become offenders, but they're not necessarily violent offenders. They're simply mentally ill. We need to have some facilities that we currently don't have, and I am eager to work on those, as well as the problems addressed by the previous question about the tax situation with Cecil. I do not have a plan at this moment, but I will commit efforts to making a plan.
Thank you for the question. This is something that I've thought a lot about because I have 2 kids in school, and I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't worried every single day that my kids are in school. However, I'm a strong 2A candidate. I was given the AQ rating by the NRA, and And one of the things that I'd like to do is overturn some of the unconstitutional bills that have already passed, stripping our two-way rights away. So for example, the red flag law that passed, which many of the current incumbents supported, even though they say they did not. One of the things I want to do, if I cannot overturn that, I want to make sure that people have the right to a lawyer. So when they go in for these hearings, I want to make sure that they have a lawyer. I want to look at the ways, we need to clean up our mental health system before we expand access to mental health in our schools, because there's predators working in mental health. So that's what I propose doing, is you got to clean up you can't have a system of helping kids who is run by criminals.
Legalization of possession of small amounts and the use of recreational marijuana is a referendum question on the November 2022 General Election Ballot. Do you favor or oppose this resolution, and explain your answer? Also, what should the General Assembly do to reduce the potential number of users under the influence of cannabis while behind the wheel and on the job?
Thank you for your question. I do support people having the choice and making the choice on the ballot, because these small amounts have already been decriminalized by the legislature. And medical marijuana was already pushed through our system without putting a lot of proper checks in place. So I do support the people having the choice. What they're going to do with that afterwards is, again, up to the people. How do I think we eliminate its usage? I plan to do a lot in healthcare. We need a lot of healthcare reforms. Right now, our healthcare system is filled with fraud, and it is filled with corruption, and it is filled with predators. And a large part of that came in because of COVID, and they just basically let anyone in the system to work in healthcare. So I plan to create an integrative medicine network to treat the whole body, to try to turn people away from hardcore prescription drugs and illegal drug use. Thank you.
First of all, the question that's on the ballot is very simply, do you vote to legalize recreational cannabis or not? Unfortunately, the accompanying bill is nothing more than a criminal justice bill. All the bill does that we passed this year was simply expunge, vacate, or eliminate sentencing if you had a conviction, a marijuana-related conviction in the past. The General Assembly failed to put forward policy that would have addressed licensing, that would have addressed the business structure, that would have addressed taxation, that would have addressed all the important things that go along with the legalization of marijuana. So for that reason, I stood up on the floor, debated this heavily, and voted against the referendum to legalize marijuana.
Let me address the latter first. The General Assembly cannot, I'm hard pressed to see what the General Assembly could do to stop someone's personal activity in their car. They're going to do it, but we need to make enforcement so that we discourage that. Let me give you my opinions. First of all, I don't agree with the way that the referendum is laid out, because, as Senator explained, it's kind of a blank check. We don't really know what happens after that. So you see, I'm not comfortable with that. I do believe that marijuana is a plant that's grown directly from our earth. Like the vegetables that we eat. It has been proven to have some medicinal values. It was misclassified early on, and I think that a lot of people have had their lives destroyed, careers ruined, career paths changed unnecessarily. But I do not agree with the legalization. I do support, though, the continued use as long as the science and results are there for the medical use, as we already have in the state. Thank you.
Gas in Maryland is now averaging $5 a gallon. Currently, the Maryland tax on a gallon of gas is 36 cents. July 1st, it's scheduled to increase 7 cents to a new total of 43 cents per gallon. Do you agree with this tax increase? And what will you do to address this hardship on the monthly expenditures of your constituents? And what are the benefits and or potential consequences of your position?
First of all, I don't like the gas tax. I don't like tax increases. I don't think it's necessary, and you know it's difficult to take on these challenges. I mean, we're at a place we've never seen before. We have to look at it though. Let's think. You know, we're trying to be told that this is Putin's price hike. Gas prices were going up prior to that. we're being fed a bill of goods that is not true. And I think that we really need to get back to looking at how we got here. And we shouldn't be tying taxes to inflation. What can be done? Well, I think that we can defund some other programs that are wasteful in our budget. For example, once again, Planned Parenthood, and we can take some of that money and reallocate it. Thank you.
No, I do not support the tax increase. However, I didn't support the General Assembly being called into special session because it's estimated that a special session costs the taxpayer $20,000 a day. So if I am elected, if you decide to elect me, the first thing I'm going to do is address the gas tax, like with bringing other tax relief. That's on my platform, is to bring you tax relief. I am struggling. I'm sure many of you in here are also struggling, and we're just finding it really hard to buy the things that we used to buy, to just enjoy going out to dinner like we used to. So any chance I get, I'm going to bring tax relief to the district. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I voted for the 30-day suspension of the gas tax in March. I voted to increase that suspension to 90 days. I voted against the automatic gas tax increase in 2013, and we introduced legislation this year to eliminate the automatic gas tax increase. So obviously, I'm very much against it. If it only costs $20,000 a day to change that, I'll be down there tomorrow to change it. I think we should have a special session to eliminate this. But let's not get confused on why this is going on and where this is coming from. This is coming from Washington, D.C. and the liberal Democratic propaganda of the Green New Deal. All of that information is now filtering down to the states, and Maryland is the absolute worst state when it comes to these renewable energy ideas and the subsequent damage that is done as a result of that. So I have fought that at the renewable stage. I think that we should fight it now. The Democrats are never going to lower this tax because they don't mind this tax at all.
That concludes our questions for the candidates for Senate seat in District 36. Each will have 30 seconds to summarize. We'll start with Ms. Sinclair.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight, and thank you for the questions. I hope you vote for me. The status quo is not good enough, and we can talk a lot about what is done and what isn't done, but the status quo is not good enough, and there's a lot of conservatives who are rather friendly at Annapolis with Democrats than against them, and you need a fighter on your side. That's why we elect people. We elect people to fight for us, not make friends with Democrats in Annapolis. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sinclair. Senator Hershey.
Thank you very much, and again, I ask for your vote as well too. Now is not the time to go back on experience. We need experience down in Annapolis. It is a toxic political environment down there. We need people that understand policy, that understand the way bills are done, and that can see forward. One of the biggest things that we are able to do in Annapolis Republican Party is look for the unintended consequences. That is critical while we're looking at policies and trying to stop the progressive agenda that's down there, and ask for your vote on July 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hershey. Mr. Bowers.
Thank you for coming out. My candidacy has been endorsed by the COTS campaign, and for Cecil County, I've already started working on Susquehanna. I've been endorsed by Doug Mastriano, the Republican candidate for governor there. We've already talked about the Susquehanna and how we can work together. I also want you to know that my platform is based on God, family, country, Constitution, and common sense. And experience, it is important, but remember something. The people that are right now in Washington, D.C. sat at a table just like this. Please vote for me.
And that concludes the questions for candidates for Senate seat 36. Please give them a hand. Candidates, take your board and